Well, hello and welcome to the Movie Paradise Show. I'm your host, Nathanael Molnár, and this is the live show that we try to do every week. We don't always get around to it, but I wanted to make sure that we get it done this week because there's a whole bunch of things to talk about today. We have a bunch of great topics. My name's Nathanael Molnár, if I did not mention already. This is part of our YouTube channel here on the Movie Paradise. There's a bunch of other things on the channel that you can go check out, as well as following us at Movie Paradise 99. And I have a few different things we're going to talk about today. And then as we go, leave your thoughts, your comments, and your questions in the chat. And after the main topic, I will take a look at the chat and we'll get to as many of the comments or questions that are in there as we can. So without further ado, let's get right into it. And we're going to start it off with, did you hear? I don't know if you guys heard or not, but they announced the title of the new Jurassic World film, along with the announcement that the film has begun shooting. Now, I am personally a fan of the past two Jurassic World films. I love, obviously, Jurassic Park is a classic. I think most people can agree that the first Jurassic Park film is a classic movie, one of Spielberg's best, and arguably his best movie that he's ever made, if you talk to some people. Personally, Close Encounters of the Third Kind is my favorite Spielberg film, but a lot of people will put Jurassic World up there as their personal favorite. Or Jurassic Park, rather. And then Colin Trevorrow made Jurassic World in 2015. And I know that it has its fans, and it also has the people who don't really care for that movie. But what I loved about Jurassic World was I thought it was a perfect representation of what would actually happen in our real world if a park or a world like that has been proposed in the Jurassic Park and Jurassic World series, what that would actually look like in our real world. It was a Disney World, but with dinosaurs. And I thought the genius of that first Jurassic World movie was that realization. I really liked Chris Pratt in the movie. I really liked Bryce Dallas Howard in the movie. And I thought it was a fun return to form, brilliantly realizing what they would actually look like in our real world, while also having the fun and adventure of that something like a Jurassic Park or Jurassic World should have. And Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, I know a lot less people like that. I still enjoyed it. I don't think it's the strongest movie, but I still got a big kick out of it. I thought it was fun, I thought it was enjoyable, and I had really good moments of horror, which were things that were missing from the first Jurassic World film, that are really evident in the first Jurassic Park film. It brought it back to some of its more horror roots, and I thought that was a really great thing that J.A. Bayona brought to the second film. So now we're moving into Jurassic World 3, and if you watch the second one, you'll know that now the dinosaurs are out in the world, and Jurassic World 3 is being called Dominion. I don't put too much stock in titles alone, because really, what does a title tell us? The title Dominion doesn't really tell us much more than we already knew from the very end of Fallen Kingdom. And a title's not going to make a movie any better. I really like the title Fallen Kingdom. I think that's a really great title for a Jurassic Park or Jurassic World film. That didn't stop some people from not liking it. I really think the title Jurassic World is a really great extension of Jurassic Park. That didn't stop people from not liking the movie who didn't like the movie. The title doesn't really add or detract anything from people's enjoyment of the actual film. What it ultimately comes down to is how good is that actual film itself. I think Dominion's a very serviceable title. It'll work, it does the job, and it just further shows us what it is that's going to be happening in this film that we could already surmise from the end of the last film. What I think is more important about this is that it's filming, and it apparently is going to have a 100-day shoot schedule, which to me is crazy. If you've been following me for any period of time, you know I shot a short film over the summer. That was a 4-day shoot. And I was absolutely exhausted. It was 4 days straight. I was absolutely exhausted by the end of that. It was 4 days. I can't imagine going on for another 96 days. That to me is unfathomable. But that's what happens when you have these giant blockbuster effects-heavy films, is you get these long shoot schedules, because there are some days where they're spending an entire day working on one 10-second shot because of how intricate it is. It's crazy to me to have a shoot schedule that long. But anyways, I just thought that was interesting, and I didn't know if you had heard that Jurassic World 3 is now being called Dominion. It has started shooting, as a 100-day shoot schedule. I am looking forward to this. You know, I'm not going crazy for Jurassic World 3, because the last one, while I liked it, it wasn't the greatest thing ever. You know, I wonder if this series has run its course. But I do really like the idea of the dinosaurs are now in the world, the real world. They're out there, and I think there is so much potential for what that could do. And I think with Colin Trevorrow coming back to direct this one, in the same way that he really did such a great job in realizing what it would look like in the real world of having this park fully realized, I think he can bring that same sort of edge and direction to this film of seeing what would it look like in the real world to have dinosaurs out in the real world. And so I'm very interested to see what he does with this one. It's not going to, well, I mean, it might be on a most anticipated list. It's not going to be at the top of a most anticipated list of 2021. But I am very much looking forward to seeing Jurassic World 3. Question is, guys, what do you think? Do you like the title Dominion? Do you not like it? What do you think of this film having started shooting? Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. And we move on here to our second Did You Hear topic. I don't know if you heard, guys, but they've been trying to make this Indiana Jones 5 movie for so long. They've been trying to do it. It was supposed to be coming out in theaters in 2019, and they haven't even begun shooting it or anything like that. I don't think they even have a script fully locked down. But one of the things that have been keeping this film going is that Steven Spielberg, who directed the other 4 Indiana Jones films, was supposed to be directing this one with Harrison Ford. It was supposed to be the two of them coming back to do one final adventure. Well, now Steven Spielberg is out. Apparently, he is no longer directing Indiana Jones 5. Now, there's been talks that James Mangold, who directed Ford v Ferrari and Logan, both of which are very good films, especially Logan is phenomenal, that he will be replacing Steven Spielberg. But I think the bigger news, since that's still hypothetical, I think the bigger news is that Steven Spielberg has walked away. Now, I'm going to level with you guys. I saw the first Indiana Jones movie many years ago. I don't really remember it too much. And as far as I know, I never saw any of the other ones. So I am not the household resident Indiana Jones fan. So when I say that I don't really care about Indiana Jones 5, take that with a grain of salt, because I'm not invested in this series. But I'm not interested in Indiana Jones 5. I think Harrison Ford is too old at this point. I don't really see what you can do with that. And I think if you're going to bring on someone like a James Mangold, bringing on a new director to do this series, at least when it was Spielberg and Harrison Ford, at least it was the original team finishing out doing one last film to complete their saga they had done. But if you're bringing on a new filmmaker to tell this story, why have Harrison Ford? Why are you making this a continuation, a final stamp on a series if you're bringing on a new filmmaker to do this? Why not do a reboot? I'm all for it. If they want to bring on James Mangold and they want to do a new Indiana Jones film with a new star and they want to do that, that has a lot of potential. I think that could be really cool and I'd be interested. But I just don't see the point now. If there's no Steven Spielberg directing, what's the point in having a new filmmaker come in to do the final film in a series that Steven Spielberg has done the entirety of? It just doesn't make much sense to me. But again, take that with a grain of salt. I'm not invested in this series. I haven't watched most of them. So maybe someone who has seen all of Indiana Jones and is actually invested in this series will have a different perspective than me and will actually look and say, yeah, let's bring in James Mangold. Let's bring someone else in. And I'm not even convinced that James Mangold will actually do this film. One, I'm not certain this film is even going to happen. Two, I think James Mangold has a lot of stuff lined up that prevent him from being available to do this film. So all I got to say on this is I think with Spielberg leaving, that is the final nail in the coffin that Indiana Jones 5 is not going to happen. I had already thought it wasn't going to happen, but Spielberg is Steven Spielberg. If he really wanted to do this movie, if he was passionate about Indiana Jones 5, he was going to get it done. So with him leaving, I think that really shows this movie isn't going to happen. And, you know, I can understand from their perspective, they want to do another one because Kingdom of the Crystal Skull left a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths. Again, I didn't see it, so I can't comment on the film from my perspective, but I know a lot of Indiana Jones fans and average movie fans were not happy with that film. And I can understand from their perspective them wanting to do one final movie to end on the right note. But I think if Spielberg's gone and Harrison Ford is approaching 80, the time's over. It's time to be done with this, and I think it's time to move on. Go reboot Indiana Jones if you want to. Bring on James Mangold and do a new film and get Chris Pratt or Bradley, whoever you want to bring on to be the new Indiana Jones. Go and do that if you want. I think it's a little late to bring on a new filmmaker to do one more movie, because it's not like you're going to be able to do a sixth one with a new filmmaker with Harrison Ford. So anyways, guys, what do you think about all this? What do you think about Steven Spielberg leaving Indiana Jones 5? Do you think this means that the movie's not going to happen like I do? Do you think, no, actually, if James Mangold's coming on and they're doing it, taking it in this direction, it will actually happen? Are you even interested in a fifth one? Whether you have seen the other Indiana Jones films or you haven't, like I have, leave your thoughts in the comments section below. And we move on here to our final Did You Hear topic. I don't know if you guys heard, but Bob Iger, who is the head of Disney, or was the head of Disney, has stepped down from his post. He will remain as chairman of the board for the remainder into, I believe, the end of 2021. And Bob Chadwick, I'm going to call him Bob. So I'll refer to Bob Iger as Bob Iger or Iger, and I'll refer to Bob Chadwick, I believe it's Chadwick, as Bob, because I don't want to keep mispronouncing his name, and I apologize that I don't know the pronunciation of his last name. But Bob Iger has stepped down as the head of Disney. And I think in the coming years, we will really see a few things. One, I think we'll be able to see the full perspective of what Bob Iger did with Disney as its head. And two, I think we'll see how much of Bob Iger's drive and influence stays with Disney, and how much of the creative decisions of Disney were him, and how much of that is retained through the new Bob. They're switching out one Bob for another Bob. How much stays with that Bob, and how much of it changes once Bob Iger leaves. Because you have to look at what Bob Iger did for Disney. He acquired Pixar, he acquired Marvel, he acquired Lucasfilm, he acquired 20th Century Fox. He did all these things. He launched Disney Plus. And, you know, there are people out there who say, oh, Disney is an evil empire. Disney's creating a monopoly on all these things. Disney's this, Disney's that. Say what you want, but Disney, under Bob Iger's reign, has cemented itself as the definitive, most profitable movie studio there is. And outside of the movies, their theme parks, their TV, their merchandising, their toys, their everything else that's under the larger Disney umbrella, what they have done in terms of establishing themselves as the definitive biggest company and enterprise and brand in the world today is truly remarkable. And we can get into discussions of whether or not they're a monopoly, or whether or not they're an evil empire, whether or not this, whether or not that. We can get into that. But looking at one person leading a company, and the success that that person had in leading that company, and the success that that company had under that person's leadership, it can't be denied that Bob Iger did one hell of a job leading Disney. And personally, I'm a fan of Disney. And I've had individual arguments, and this isn't the place for that. You can look up my thoughts on it before. I've talked about how I don't think they're a monopoly in the film industry. I don't think they're an evil empire yet. We'll see. But their acquisition of Lucasfilm was huge. And I've mostly been a fan of what they've done with Star Wars, which I'll get into a little bit later in the show. Their acquisition of Marvel was huge. And I've been a huge fan, and I really think that if you look at Marvel before Disney took over and Marvel after Disney took over, Marvel really cemented itself as what we understand it to be today under Disney's leadership and under Disney's umbrella. The acquisition of Pixar was huge, and I've loved what they've done with Pixar. And we're only in the very beginning stages of their acquisition of 20th Century Fox and the launch of Disney Plus. But in the years to come, we'll see how monumental those things were. And so I think Bob Iger did probably one of the best jobs that you can do in leading a company like Disney. And what it has done in cementing itself as the movie studio that it is, the theme park industry that it is, the TV enterprise that it is, the merchandising enterprise that it is, all these other different facets that fall under Bob Iger's rule and control and direction, it has cemented itself as one of the top companies, businesses, enterprises in the world under his leadership. And I think in the years to come, we will recognize a couple of things. One, how truly instrumental Bob Iger was in the rise of Disney and cementing Disney's legacy in this modern era. And two, we will see how much of that is retained in the new Bob and in the new leadership. Do they go even further? Do they continue to ride out where they are now? Do they fall? We will see that, and how much of what Bob Iger brought to this company is in fact retained. So anyways, I thought it was really interesting that Bob Iger stepped down from Disney. We figured it was going to happen soon, but it was a surprise when the announcement actually came that he said, nope, it's done, I'm out, and here's your new head, another Bob. So, anyways, question is, guys, what do you think? What do you think about Bob Iger stepping down as the head of Disney? Do you think it is a good decision? Have you been a fan of what Bob Iger has done with Disney? Are you not a fan of what he's done? Do you think he's made good decisions or bad decisions? Do you think he had good leadership qualities or bad leadership qualities? And what do you think the future of Disney will be without Bob Iger? Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. And now we move on here to another segment that we do here on the Movie Paradise Show, and that is called Trailer Talk. Every week, there's a bunch of different trailers that drop, and I like to take a couple of them, or at least one, and discuss them here on the show. And the one I'll be talking about today is for the new film Candyman. Now, this is produced and co-written by Jordan Peele, and it is directed by, and I apologize, I don't have her name in front of me, it's Nia something, and I don't know her last name, it's like DeCostas, or something along those lines, and I apologize, but Nia is the director of this film. And I first want to say, when this trailer came out, I noticed that every single news outlet was running with Jordan Peele's new film, or check out the trailer for Jordan Peele's Candyman, or Jordan Peele's new film this, or I was like, Jordan Peele's not directing this. I get it, between Jordan Peele and Nia, Jordan Peele is the bigger name, but it's not his film. He's not the main driving force behind this. Is he a producer? Yes. Did he co-write it with a few other people, including Nia? Yes. In the same vein that Get Out wasn't Jason Blum's film, that was Jordan Peele's film because he wrote and directed it. And Nia directed this film, and she co-wrote it. And I get that Jordan Peele's the bigger name, so you want him in the headlines, and you want him in the descriptions, and you want him. But I saw a post from Variety, and we have to admit, most people and I'm guilty of this too. I don't a lot of the time, and I'm trying to fix it about myself, but it's an unfortunate reality. Most people don't read articles. They see the description in the post, they see the headline, and they see, when you see the headline and you see like the first line of the article that's under the headline, that's all people read. And I believe it was either the Hollywood Reporter or Variety, but they posted the link for an article reporting about this trailer. In the description, in the headline, and in the one sentence tag about the article, Jordan Peele's name was mentioned 3 times. It never said that he was a producer. It never mentioned the director of the film. It said, Jordan Peele's new film, Candyman, blah, 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 blah. And then, new trailer for Jordan Peele's Candyman. Jordan Peele does the new Candyman movie. You know, I'm forgetting exactly how it was worded. We need to be better about this. 1, we need to read articles instead of just looking at headlines. But 2, I believe that these outlets, I know this has nothing to do with the trailer, but I thought it was an important thing to talk about. Movie sites need to do better about how they word things and whose names they put in what places, because they have to know a lot of people are just going to look at that description, headline, and one sentence blurb and go, oh, Jordan Peele directed this new Candyman movie. Cool. And that's not their fault. Well, it is their fault in that they should have read the article. But it's presented in such a way that it leaves everyone to think that he directed it. And so I think that these news sites and articles, they need to do a better job in how they present these things. And we, as movie fans and just people in general, need to actually read articles. And I mean, I don't read nearly as many articles as I should. I am so guilty of this. Like, it's a little bit hypocritical of me to be talking about how that we should be doing this, because I do it all the time. I'll read in the headline and go, oh, cool, this. And then just move on, and I should have read the article to actually know the details. So we need to do a better job of that. But, let's talk about the trailer for a second. So I did not see the original Candyman. It is on Netflix, and I really want to check it out. The original one, because I've heard nothing but great things about it. So putting that aside, that I haven't seen the original one, I really like this trailer. It was creepy. It had an interesting edge to it. It had suspense. I mean, the idea of, oh, you say a creature or whatever's name a few times and it'll pop up in reality. Yeah, that's been done a few times. But I thought this trailer was very well constructed. I love Yahya Abdul-Mateen II. He's been popping up in more and more things, and I think he's a really strong actor, and I really liked him in this. I think this movie has a lot of potential. And Jordan Peele, to talk about him again, he is a very good writer, because he co-wrote the script, and he is a good producer. And while I'm not familiar with the director, Nia, as much as maybe I should, I'm very interested to see what she does with this film. And so I really liked the trailer for this. I thought it was interesting. I thought it was compelling. And I am very interested to see what happens with this movie. So anyways, question is, guys, what do you think? What do you think of the trailer for Candyman? Are you excited for it? Are you not excited for it? And I'm curious, if you have seen that original film, what did you think of this trailer? So leave your thoughts in the comment section below. And now we're going to move on here to another segment that we do on the Movie Paradise Show, and that is Go or No Go. And how Go or No Go works is that I go see a new film in the theaters, and I simply tell you whether I think you should go see the movie, or no go as in you don't really have to bother or see this film. And the movie I'm going to be talking about today is the new, speaking of Blumhouse, Jason Blum, the new Invisible Man movie. Now, we all remember the horrible catastrophe that was Universal's The Dark Universe, where they got so ahead of themselves, they put out The Mummy, we're like, we're doing a shared cinematic universe, look at this, we've got a really cool logo, we're gonna do this movie, we're gonna do that movie, including an Invisible Man movie with Johnny Depp. We're going to do this, and we're going to do that, and then The Mummy tanks, And they're like, oh, never mind. And remember, Dracula Untold was supposed to be the first movie of that dark universe. And then that movie bombed, so they're like, scratch that. It's actually The Mummy's going to be the first one. And then The Mummy bombed, and then they're like, you know what, forget it. So then Universal made a deal with Blumhouse. Blumhouse produced this film. Universal distributed it. And now we have The Invisible Man, bringing it back to low-budget horror roots. This was made for $7 million. And the movie is really good. I really liked it a lot. Now, I won't go as far as to say that it is a through and through horror movie. I describe it more as a thriller with strong horror elements. And that's not a detractor of the film at all. That's not a bad thing in any way. I think it's more case of the movie needed to be what it is, and this was the strongest way for the movie to be what it is. It definitely has horror in it, but it is not a through and through horror movie. This isn't The Exorcist. This isn't The Conjuring. This is a thriller with really strong horror elements. Elizabeth Moss is fantastic in this movie. She turns in such a phenomenal performance, and it's really her performance that carries the whole film. And she just, you buy into her character, you buy into her struggle, and what is going on. And what I love about this movie, and you can gather this from the trailer, I'm not going too deep into what actually happens in the movie, but what I really love about this movie is that, and mainly through the writing, Leigh Whannell's direction, and Elizabeth Moss' performance, the movie really puts you in the mindset and perspective of what happens when you have an abuser who you can't see, who you can't prove to anyone else is even there, and follows you and lingers and is in your mind, and you can't communicate this to anyone. What happens with that? And the questioning of one's sanity as that goes deeper and deeper. And there's a level of despair that follows that. And a hopelessness, because you can't see this person. You can't prove to anybody else that this person is there, and yet it is there. And Leigh Whannell and Elizabeth Moss do such a great job of putting you as the audience in that mindset and feeling that hopelessness and feeling that despair, and then seeing how the movie ultimately plays out. The common criticism, and I had this criticism too, of the trailer for The Invisible Man was that it gives a lot away for the movie, or it shows too much. Having seen the film, there are still parts about that trailer that I wish were not in that trailer, but it does not give away the whole movie. There are twists and turns in this film, some of which I could kind of see coming, some of which legitimately had my jaw completely drop open, and I was just, for several minutes, some of the stuff that happens in this movie, it does a really good job in that sense with its twists and turns of subverting expectations. So I'll say The Invisible Man, really, really strong, great movie. Elizabeth Moss is fantastic in it. Really great thriller with strong horror elements. It does not jump ahead of itself. It does not get ahead of itself. It is, as I think a lot of horror should be, great low-budget horror. And I thought it really succeeded with that. So my question is to you. What do you think? Have you had a chance to see The Invisible Man yet? Are you planning on going to see the film? Leave your spoiler-free thoughts in the comments section below. And we move on here to our main topic on today's installment of the Movie Paradise Show, and that is this. So I want to paint a little bit of a picture for you guys. A few days ago, I'm sitting and I'm watching TV, and I'm scrolling through Facebook. And the first thing that pops up on my Facebook feed is a video from the official Star Wars account. And it just says, "The High Republic is coming," or something along those lines. And it's a video. And it was just posted. It was like 2-3 minutes old. I click on the video. And in this video, it is interviews and people and showing writer's room. And keep in mind, there had been rumors going around that a new series of films was going to involve something called the High Republic. And in this video, we're seeing writers' rooms and we're seeing people interviewing, and they're talking about how for this High Republic project, they're bringing together this incredible writers' rooms of different talents of Star Wars fans, and they're doing workshops and they're doing discussions, figuring out where to take Star Wars next, fleshing out this world. And I'm getting really excited. And the more and more I'm watching it, I'm starting to think, they're not mentioning the movies at all. And I can't tell. Is this for the movies or not? And then someone says, we're playing this out almost like we would be planning out a movie. And I'm like, then why am I wasting my time watching this? And it turns out it was for a novel series. And what I realized when I watched that, and how excited I was getting, because it seemed like Star Wars was actually putting out something to show. We are taking this seriously. We are bringing together fantastic writers who know and appreciate and love Star Wars to come together and come up with some really cool ideas of where to go to next. And it turns out that level of planning and structure was being put behind a book series and not the movies. I have been a fan, mostly, of all the new Disney-era Star Wars films. I've given them all positive reviews. On a scale of, going back to our last segment, go or no go, I've given all of them a go. Some of them I've liked more than others. I think Rogue One is absolutely brilliant, and it's my third favorite Star Wars movie of all time. And then there are movies like Solo, which I think it's good, but it's fine. It's nothing I really feel the need to see again. Or The Rise of Skywalker, which I thought was good. It was fine. Positive, I'd give it a go. But nothing remarkable or wholly, truly transcendental in terms of Star Wars content. But I've liked them all, and I've given them all positive reviews. But they have had their fair share of struggles in terms of where to take Star Wars. We've had so many projects that were announced, and then this person's doing this film. And then, no, that person's not doing it, this person's doing it. No, that person's not doing it, this person's doing it. And then, that project's not happening, this project's happening. We're getting an Obi-Wan movie. Oh wait, no, we're not getting an Obi-Wan movie, we're getting an Obi-Wan TV show. No, we don't really know if we're getting an Obi-Wan TV show or not. That's being rolled back. We're gonna get this. No, we're not really sure if we're gonna get that. We're gonna get this instead, but we're not sure if we're gonna get that. And this person's doing a Star Wars movie, but no, they're not really gonna do a Star Wars movie because this person's gonna do, but nah, that person's not gonna do it. And there's all this turmoil of what's happening, who's doing what, and there's no real concrete plan. Now, I am on record of saying, after The Rise of Skywalker, and I still stand by this, that I did not think they needed a concrete plan for the sequel trilogy. I know a lot of people after Rise of Skywalker were like, well, there was clearly no plan for these three movies, which there clearly was not. And they should have mapped out an entire plan for all three films before they even made the first one. I don't think they needed to do that. Would it have been better than what they did do with the three movies? I think so, yes. It would have been better than what we got. But they did not need to do it. Because, I hate to break it to you, the original trilogy didn't have a plan. George Lucas planned out the first one, and then they made up the second one after the first one, and then they made up the third one after the second one. And those movies did pretty good. They worked well. Because you can go movie by movie and make strong, compelling movies that play into each other well and flow and are cohesive, making them up as you go, if you do it right. It's all about the execution. They could have made a great sequel trilogy, and again, I've given positive reviews to all three of the films. But They could have made a great sequel trilogy that each movie was great, and they planned each movie as they came, and they all tied in together if they executed it in that way. And what ultimately happened was they made The Force Awakens, which I thought was great, and they set up a lot of great things. Rian Johnson came in and took it in a new direction, which I really liked. And then they panicked and tried to reverse a whole bunch of things with the third film. You could have made a really great third film that extended off of The Last Jedi. And it didn't necessarily need to be directed by Rian Johnson or carry through a lot of the narrative threads or thematic elements that he had in that film. But you could have, instead of trying to retcon a bunch of things in that second movie, you could have made a satisfying, compelling film that stood on its own while also being tied into the other films. You could have done that. Would these three films have benefited from a plan, and would that having a plan for these three films been better than what we got? Yes, I think so. But they didn't need a plan. But what I think they do need a plan for, or at least some sort of overarching direction, creative direction, is the plan for these movies and series and everything going forward. You don't need to map out an entire trilogy, but you need to map out the universe a little bit. Because especially if you're going to start having Disney Plus series and new movies and new trilogies and new this, new that, get some sort of plan. You need some sort of new direction. And I think what they did for these books, which a fraction of the people who spend money to go see the movies, especially when each movie is coming out and making $1 billion, a fraction of the people seeing those movies will actually ever read those books, and they're putting more time and effort and creativity and planning into that series of books than they are into their films and series. Why can't they take a writer's room of Star Wars writers and maybe not fans, but, creative people actually in the industry who know and love Star Wars, get Patton Oswalt. Die-hard Star Wars fan, who's also a great writer and creative genius. Get people like that together in a room to say, what do we love about Star Wars? And start coming up with ideas and branching things out and coming up with some of these things, because it's owned by Disney. It's not as if they're strapped for cash. They have the ability to be able to take their time and plan out something. Pull together. Disney and Lucasfilm was in the position, they could call anybody up. Anybody they wanted, maybe short of George Lucas, but even then, maybe George Lucas, to come in and give some thoughts on something, read something, write up a quick one-page thing on something, and give some notes, and give some ideas. They have the ability to accumulate a writer's room, similar to what they did with these novels. And I'm not trying to dismiss the novels, even though I am trying to dismiss the novels a little bit. But I just mean in terms of significance, the novels are these novels, that series that's coming out that they did all this planning and work and preparation for, is such a small, trivial thing compared to the movies, which are the most important things in the realm and scope of the Star Wars IP. They can do it for a novel series. They can do it for the movies. And Lucasfilm and Disney are in a position where they're able to do that. And they're not. Star Wars needs a new direction. They need to plan something. They need to have an idea of something. Now, they had an idea a while back after Force Awakens. Hey, we're going to do a film every year. It looked like they were trying to gear themselves up for 2 films a year. We're going to do these episode films. We're going to do these Star Wars story films. We're just going to keep making movies, and we're going to do one every year. And then that didn't really work out for them, because they kind of got ahead of themselves. Now you're in a period where the sequel trilogy is done. They don't have any new movies on the horizon. There's whispers that the Obi-Wan series that they were working on might be a movie. There was talks that the director of Slight was going to be doing a new movie. There's some things like that. And they have a couple of Disney Plus series a little bit in the works. The only real concrete one we have is Mandalorian Season 2. Disney is in a period now where they finished the sequel trilogy. They have no real, true, tangible plans for the movies going forward or for series going forward other than Mandalorian Season 2. This is the time. This is the time to bring people on, to listen to different people, to assemble these writers' rooms, these think tanks, to come up with ideas, to come up with a new direction of going forward. This is the chance. If you want to keep Star Wars alive, you got to do something. Because Star Wars is not going to succeed just on the pure namesake of Star Wars. Solo didn't make $1 billion. Add Star Wars in the title, it didn't make $1 billion. If they want to keep making Star Wars content, and they want to keep making successful Star Wars content, and they want to keep making Star Wars content that Star Wars fans are going to go out and see, and that will generate new Star Wars fans, what they need to do is figure things out. Get together a plan, a little bit of a plan, going forward of how do we bring on new Star Wars fans, and how do we keep the existing Star Wars fans? Because that's the plan that they haven't had thus far. And now they're in a period of time. The sequel trilogy is done. No eminent plans going forward where you can bring these people together, create these think tanks, have these workshops, create these writers' rooms to bring together some ideas, some things that they can do to try out going forward. This is the time to do that. Now, a lot of people have said Kathleen Kennedy, who is the head of Lucasfilm, needs to resign or step down. And because her biggest job, being the head of Lucasfilm, is to bring on talent, writers, directors, producers, to make films, to pair them up with projects, get them on the right page, and have them make their movie. And that has been the biggest problem with the Star Wars movies going forward so far, at least. That they haven't had the right directors or the right writers. They'll have Colin Trevorrow is doing episode 9. Oh wait, no, fire him. We'll get J.J. Abrams to do it. Oh, Lord and Miller are going to be doing Solo. No, they're not. Bring on Ron Howard. Oh, I'm forgetting the guy who directed Josh Trank. He's going to do Boba Fett. No, he's not. Oh, Obi-Wan's going to be a movie. No, it's not. Oh, this is going to be this. No, it's not. That has been one of the biggest problems with Star Wars so far, and that falls under her biggest responsibility as the head of Lucasfilm. Now, other than for instances of someone committing crimes or being a sexual assaulter or something like that, I don't like to say someone should lose their job. I don't think that's my place to say. I don't know Kathleen Kennedy. I don't know the inner workings of Lucasfilm. I don't know the inner workings at Disney. It's not my place to say someone should be fired, of course, unless they have committed some sort of crime or some sort of egregious act that makes their workplace a hostile place. Other than those circumstances, it's not my place to say someone should be fired, that someone should lose their livelihood, that someone should stop getting paychecks to support their family. That's not my place. What I think Kathleen Kennedy needs to do is take this time and really figure out what is the next step for Star Wars, what is the next place to go, and set a foundation and a direction of where to go to next. Because this is the time to do it. And if they don't have some idea of what they're going to do, and they don't need to plan out a full map out, this is what the next 10 years of Star Wars looks like, down to treatments for every single movie going forward. They don't need that. They just need something. They need some new direction. And if Star Wars is going to continue, if Star Wars is going to continue to make films and series and exist, and if Star Wars is going to thrive, then they need to do that. So anyways, that's my thoughts on the whole thing. I throw it over to you. What are your thoughts? Do you agree with me, Star Wars needs a new direction? Or do you think, no, the way that they've been doing it so far, has worked for them. I mean, box office wise, it absolutely has. Force Awakens made $2 billion. Rogue One, Last Jedi, Rise of Skywalker, they all made over $1 billion. Solo didn't do that great, but that was kind of its own unique situation. Mandalorian had great success. So box office wise, there's really no issues. It's more in terms of creative decisions and what's been going on behind the scenes. So do you think, no, they don't really need to change their direction because it's been working for them so far? Anyways, leave your thoughts in the comments section below. And we're going to turn things over to the live chat now to see if we have any comments, things there. And we do not at the moment. So that's going to do it for this installment of the Movie Paradise Show. Once again, I'm your host, Nathanael Molnár. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe for more content. And be sure to follow us on all of our various social medias at Movie Paradise 99. And until our next live stream or until our next video or podcast, thank you for watching.